So, speaking of not being able to function, we can't function this episode without our little support from Little Joe's and Shott Beverage.
All right.
To Little Joe's and Shott Beverage.
And Little Joe's.
Thanks for bringing the chaos and keeping us sharp.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Energy from down under.
Oh, it's
That
so
is so
smooth.
freaking good.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's badass.
Joseph.
We're going to turn everybody into a shot drinker. Shot.
OMG, there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
Everybody can. Oh.
And with that,
Yes.
welcome everybody to F'nAround with Mo, Mike, and Joe.
I'm Joe.
And
Mike.
Ted.
Finally, it only took you like 2 hours.
Only 2 hours. Yeah. 1 hour, 55 minutes.
Close enough.
Mo spent the break just repeating the name to himself.
We Bart Simpsoned him. He was on the whiteboard writing his name over and over until he remembered it. But now, here's the trick question. He said what his company was last episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about not only him, but his company. We're going to start off with what he talked about as the keynote speaker, and at the last thing, what's his company name?
You know how tough it was for me to remember his name? I can barely remember my own name, and you want me to remember other things?
And it's not on his shirt.
Yeah.
That's not the company.
It's not. It's
No.
not. It's not.
No, because he said it.
He did say it.
Damn.
I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
The first letter was the first letter of 2 people in this room right now.
Not only that,
First names.
your name is literally in it.
Mo's in it? Is that what you're saying?
Very close. Moettas.
Moettas. All right.
Yes.
Now I'm proud of myself for that because that easily could have, been put on me, and like that's all I had. I remember I remembered him saying the name of the company once. I remember it had an M, and I remember it had a funky ending, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I just, basically my cards were out there like, come on, Mo, I'll give you a hint.
I was hoping you said it because I knew I was going to use that to joke for the second episode as long as you said it, which is why I cut in like, do you have any shout outs? I'm like, let me set it up because I know Mo's going to fuck this up and not realize his company has his own name in it.
So tell us about
Moettas.
Moettas.
Or you want to talk about your company and how it tied into the speech at Flower
sure.
Expo.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah. A little bit about, I'll start off with Moettas. Moettas is actually the name of my my partner's mom. And the reason why we named the company after her is because I was a financial advisor. I worked in banking for about almost 20 years. And I was a banking center manager for a long time for Bank of America. 15 years. I managed a bunch of different branches of their bank. And then I went and had my own practice for a while where I was a financial advisor. And I did a financial plan for my buddy's mom. Okay, and when you first get your own practice, your friends are going to come to you first. And so that was one of the things that always kind of led to my success was focusing on the customer, and not really worried about goals. Okay, just trying to help them the best way I can, instead of even worrying. And then the goals just came, and then I actually, blew them away, because people, it's you're going to enjoy your job better. 100%, when you're really thoroughly helping people, and you're really trying to find out how to help them, and the success is going to come after that.
Mike literally said last week he just started enjoying this. His regular job.
Is that when I said it?
Wasn't it last week in the group text?
And the text messages, yep.
Well, we were talking about preparing and what's going on for the episode, and he goes, you actually start preparing for things when you enjoy doing it, and look how long it took us to start preparing for this.
I kind of remember that. I mean, it's one of those things we've discussed often, Mo has had issues with Joe and I's Joe and my our kind of
Yeah.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go. Maybe we should put some sort of outline
the issue
or
is,
something into the thing. Like, what are we gonna talk about? Because
the issue is we have a topic or we have an idea, we have like a route that we want to go, and then because all of us have ADHD, we go on so many different tangents, and I'm over here like, hold on, we got to focus on this thing, and that doesn't work.
Ted was having a conversation here.
I don't
That
have
never works.
I don't have the H.
I have the H.
I don't have the H.
Well, I have ADD. Yeah, so,
No H
I've
for
got
me.
the H.
they said, apparently it's all lumped in one thing. It's all ADHD right now. They don't have ADD anymore.
Oh, are you a doctor?
Oh, this is what I was told.
Are you
No, this is what I was told recently.
He's a
Are you a
shaman.
doctor?
Look at
I am a
him.
shaman.
Are
He
you
knows.
putting medical advice?
I
or,
am. I am.
Maybe you should.
This is medical advice to everybody out here.
We're now getting sued and we're going under tomorrow. This is not medical advice. He is not giving disclosures. He has about as much right to give medical advice as Johnny Sins does.
Hey, my initials are MD for a reason, all right?
You're
By the
right.
My
way-
initials are MD for a reason. I was born into it.
By the way, the reason I had to say Johnny Sins is, did anyone get a picture of him when he was filming?
That's
Just so we're very clear.
Are you saying I'm the cameraman for Johnny Sins?
I'm getting more. What's his name?
Ron Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm getting more Ron Jeremy vibes from that one.
No, dude.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was
give
hoping
this-
somebody
this
said
was-
it.
You throw this dude a pair of
absolute
Elvis sunglasses, and
disrespect.
he could play the part in Boondock Saints. I swear to God.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Mike, I thought I loved you, man, but that hurt. I'm gonna cry tonight.
I thought you.
So back to Ted.
I thought you.
Exactly like that.
I thought you had thicker skin than that, to be honest.
No.
Yeah. So. My buddy's mom. So she was one of my first customers. Okay.
Cool.
And and I sat down at her kitchen table. I did her financial plan. She was giving me all her information, and realized that she kind of had a lot in kind of the wrong places. So I set her up really good, actually. So she was my largest client, and technically speaking, after that one client, I didn't really have to even work, for the half the year, because I had kind of already, exceeded, my goal just on the one client, and she had a financial advisor, but it's just kind of, and so I became her financial advisor, and she unfortunately she passed away, and it was sudden, she didn't have any diseases, because we set her up in life insurance policies.
Right.
And so she passed away suddenly. It was very tragic, for my buddy and I, because I knew her for years, and she was like my mom too.
Yeah,
Sure.
sorry about that,
Yeah, and so my buddy, was the recipient, of a lot of her assets and so forth. So and she did a lot for his family and for us. We kind of bootstrapped our, we kind of built our company, because at the time, we paid a lot of money just to get a consultant to write the 400-page license. You know how that is. So you're spending tens of thousands just for that.
You guys pay people to do it?
So we did. Yeah, we did. We paid a gentleman that did a really great job for us. He was really honest, and his name's Tom Howard. Yeah, his lawyer. So that's why we named the company after her. Lots of reasons. She was just a great person.
Yeah, just
and
memorialized
it
an
kinda just
awesome
made
person
sense.
that
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
helped get you guys basically,
Yeah.
put some ground under your feet.
Yeah, put a little bit of ground under our feet. Made things a little bit less difficult. For us. At least allowed us to get on board, because that was a huge expense. Just trying to apply for the license. You could be upwards of 40,000.
Sure.
So that's a lot. So people spent their life savings to get these licenses. So we did get awarded a license, the transport license, and we were ecstatic, when we got it.
Now tell us a little bit more. What is a transport license? What do you do with it?
Well, so the transport license allows you to transport cannabis from the farm to the dispensaries.
Okay.
Yeah, or from the infuser to the dispensaries. And we're all tracked, and we have to have a really, really good tracking system in our vehicles. The one I use is called Drone. And you can track the speed of the vehicle, you can track the every time it stops, it stores the data for a while. And so it's you got cameras all around the vehicle. I've got cameras on the both mirrors. I got camera facing the front.
Yeah, you're operating like an armored car type driver.
Essentially.
All bases, all angles. Under surveillance. You got to know if somebody's coming up or
Is this like a legally required thing to have done too? Or,
yes.
Right. So it sounds like the
yes.
dispensaries can't do this themselves. They need somebody to transport it from their place to.
Oh yes, that is
like
correct.
From
Yes.
Point A to point B. It can't be the dispensary themselves that sends somebody. Hey, go pick this up and bring it back. You need, and you can't just use, FedEx or somebody like that. You've got to go through a specific,
yes, you got to go to a
specialized company like yours.
Yes,
gotcha.
Yes, that's yes, it's a very good, explanation of it. There are challenges, okay, and I was talking to Joe, about some of them, and. A lot of our customers, when we came into this business, have their own transport license. So
So this would be a dispensary that's got its own transport license.
So this would be a craft grow, or
the farmer has got his own
the farmer
transport
or the cultivator,
license.
and the big cultivators. They got 320,000 square feet. So they weren't
hidden in a building somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Many of them have their own transport license when we got into this business. So it's very difficult. For us to get off the ground.
No, what are some of the requirements to get the license for it, so you can?
Yes, yeah. In order to get the license, there's a 400-page document. And that's typically why I know some people have done it themselves.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. And if you're working a job, or if you are just not the type of person to be able to analyze legal documents and put together a 400-page document, which is not a lot of folks, then it's going to be difficult to do it, and you're going to have to hire somebody to do it. So you have to do that, and then they want to clean a lot of different personal information. You have to be up to date on everything. And it was a little bit difficult. And we're social equity. Yeah. Social equity is if you are from a DIA, which is a disadvantaged area, and both my partner and myself, are from DIAs. I'm from Chatham, and he lives in Brighton Park. Mm-hmm. So we came in through a social equity route. And most of the transporters are social equity. I'm actually executive director of the ITPCA, which is on my shirt. We have about 15 transporters in our group, and we're all social equity. So yeah.
Now, would that be sort of like a union?
We
type of
trade
group?
organization,
Okay.
So definitely much needed.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lobbyist, and which is he's doing a great job for us. And it is unfortunate that you would need a lobbyist, but it is necessary. It was necessary, at least for us. I know that many parts of the industry have lobbyists in the in order to
to get
access.
your voice.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to get access, a little bit of access to the legislators to
put
tell
your
your
sticker
story.
on their jacket.
Yes, we know that that's a tactic for a lot of the big guys. As a matter of fact, there was a really important piece of legislation, HB 2911, which was an omnibus bill. That was looking to go through in the lame duck session, and it didn't because there was one company that sent down 15 lobbyists to stop it because they didn't like one thing in there, and thankfully I'm not talking bad about them. Everybody probably knows who they are now, but they did come to the table after the fact, and they did sit down and they did work out what they were trying to work out, which was fantastic.
It's cool to know there are some people out there that want to put their sleeping dogs to bed, huh?
I agree. They'll get a kick out of it. You want to tell them how we connected?
Well, give him a little bit of break. You want to tell us how you guys
let him do it. It's his story here to talk. But I was going to say something funny while you're doing it. Have you know how they kept adjusting the areas and how it was? At one point, we were in a disproportionate area right here on one of the charts. I qualified for that social equity.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that just tells you how rigged the system is.
Rigged, yes, but at the same time, I mean, you're not far from the area that it should have been in. Somebody dragged a line across the map a little, like a
too far, couple blocks,
right, a half an inch too far, and all of a sudden, oh hey, but then you find out later, oh hey, so and so's cousin lived in that area, and that's what.
I mean, if you live in there, so it doesn't have anything to do with, my partner's white, and he lives in a DIA, so.
I grew up in.
I wasn't talking about like race or anything. I was just talking about areas. You drove this area. I was talking about you drove this area. Look at the area you're in. Would you picture this area?
Yes, and no, you're right because
you went a whole different way than we went. We know we're white. I mean, you see the glare?
You know what? The reason why I said that is because it would have been totally appropriate for you to take that social equity. If you're still in that, you can probably still take advantage of it. I certainly would, because you live in the area. If it's designated one, just like my buddy,
absolutely,
and we took advantage of it because it's deserved, and you live in the area. And I mean, this is the way where the lines were drawn. So for sure, yep.
Right, but you may not have realized this, but my kind of joke or comment to Joe is that we are very close to Section 8 housing over here. Right? And it's literally if somebody was, pulling a mouse cursor across a map, just that little hiccup of when you let go of the mouse or whatever could have moved it. Or it was, accidentally on purpose moved because somebody who was drawing the map knew a couple of people that could benefit if the map was a little skewed.
Oh yeah,
margin of error, whatever you want to call it. So I was just making a joke.
Yep.
Yeah. There's that happens. There's some documentation of that. I think in the news even a couple of times. You know what I mean? In the past, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know what we need to do to get rid of that. Except I don't know. So.
Yeah, I mean. My feeling is, it's odd because, I want things to work.
Yeah.
And,
you can't even draw words properly. Have you seen the shapes of them?
Right.
There's a term for that.
Yeah, gerrymandering?
Yes.
That's it. I just want someone else to say it.
Oh, yeah. No, look, I know that, I worked I did, dabbled in politics a little bit, and, I just blew my mind and how other politicians would fight and so I just remember, you guys remember the Colbert Report?
Yeah.
And he would do this thing where he would highlight a congressional district.
Yeah.
Right? And it was funny because it was always, it looked kind of weird. And one that stuck out to me was when he did the Illinois, and I forget what number it is, but it's basically the congressional district is Humboldt Park and Pilsen to Little Village, right? But it's connected pretty much by like Western or California, and that's it. It's like that line connects it, right? And on both other sides of those two streets, you're in different congressional districts, right? And it's gerrymandering done so that, you know, somebody specifically could get as many of the Latino votes as they could, you know. And I'm not a fan of gerrymandering, you know. I'm a fan of things working.
Yeah.
You know, like just make it work.
Yeah. You know, I can tell you that there is a possibility that that the outcome of that turned out, you know, at least and the reason why I say this is because I know the guy who is the alderman of that area, the little village area and so forth. And he is a guy that you can call on a cell phone and he'll call you back. You know, I've called him on my cell phone and he calls me back. Sometimes it's maybe you know, like a week later, but
he returns
call
calls.
you back.
Yeah.
He'll call you back. You know, and that's good stuff. You know, and I had aldermen that I'm on the board of another organization, and it's where we work a lot with city aldermen, and I have aldermen that I work with, and I walked in the rain to stomp for them, to help them campaign. And then I tried to ask for a meeting with them after that, and they turned around and didn't give it to me, you know. But the alderman of that, Mike Rodriguez, he wasn't one of the ones that did that.
Right.
He met with us on cannabis, you know, so for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, my I guess call it one of my early political mentors really fucking stomped on me a couple years later.
It's shitty, you know.
You know, was
no
just an
about
absolute
that.
dick to me in public, and like called me out for like some shit that I didn't even do.
Yeah.
And I was like, just made me feel so embarrassed, you know. And like, you know, I'm not gonna call him out right now because I'm a bigger person than that. But you know, it was at Boss Bar, right? Which you know, it's a spot for, you know, politics.
Yeah.
You know.
Really, that's not what people call it when you go out late night.
No. Well, whatever.
Maybe for politics, but from what the rest of us who like to party, that's not what you consider Boss Bar.
No, I'm just saying back when I was doing.
That's what I'm talking about back in the day. He's looking too. I mean, it was around the corner from Minx and Sugar. Come on, we all know what happened at Boss Bar.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, everybody's got an excuse, right? You know, you gotta, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to have one drink, and you know that drink then sits on the bar with a coaster over the top of it for 30 minutes before it gets touched. And
Exactly.
like, oh, where do you? Oh, he back. I didn't see anything.
So earlier we were talking about trans women in sports. All right.
Wait,
Where
that is a fucking around right there.
that
That's
right
a
there.
around.
I'm looking at like, where are we going with this? And what can we say?
I have a story. I have a story.
Okay.
about
All right,
that,
all right,
okay.
yeah.
And because
This is a conversation that started before we
guys were-
started recording.
Okay.
You were saying how you were more, you know, conservative leaning, and I was a little more, you know, liberal leaning. And that how, you know, somebody once tried to paint me as some like
just cut him off?
bleeding
Yeah.
heart. Oh no, I'm just I'm setting up the
He's
story.
framing up the story.
So
yeah.
and you had walked kind of out of the room, and I continued talking, and I was, you know, saying how, you know, Joe and I agree on things
lot
that
of
make sense, and we
Yeah.
you know, don't agree on some things, but like, you know, there's lots of overlap.
Yeah.
And this is like what, you know, I mean, I knew there's always been, you know, division or whatever, but somehow things were still able to get done. And it seems like now it's almost like if you're, you know, Republican, you hate Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you hate Republicans. But it's like not at all how, you know, me and this guy are. Even, you know, we can be friends and we can agree and disagree on different things. Like, you know, so one of the things was, you know, trans sports. Like, you know, we're both in agreement that, you know, the biological way you were kind of born is the sport you should probably be playing in. But, you know, Teddy's having a hard time right now trying to hit the sample chill.
He went it the wrong way.
Yeah. Thank God it's not a cigarette or a joint. because he would have lit the butt. He would have been that guy.
I was
All of a
hoping he was doing
sudden-
it for a joke for a second. And then he looked at me like,
Yeah.
Teddy, I thought you smoked, man. What happened?
I remember my first beer.
I just pictured Woody Harrelson in the dress from Anger Management when you said that.
Oh, I was going beer fest.
I was thinking Woody Harrelson in the back, like, I don't remember what he said.
I don't remember the quote.
Yeah, so that's how. Yeah, that's
Right.
How
So
we
what
started
I was
talking about
saying
it.
is,
Yeah.
you know, like, look, I'm in agreement on that. Like, you know, there should be its own league, though. You know, let's use Title IX and say, hey, look, you know, you don't want to play in this league and you don't want to play in this league. Well, how about you both play in this league?
And do you remember what your response was? Because you did in our group chat, what would happen if they did that?
Well, I think we even talked about
Yeah.
this in the post NFL or the post Super Bowl episode a little bit.
He
with
said the TNVA would kill the WNBA.
I said, yeah, you know, women athletes would need to watch out for this, you know, trans sports league because look, already I'd be like, look, I'd kind of be interested in seeing that sort of a matchup.
It would be.
You know?
It would be actually.
Call
And I
yourself
wonder
whatever you want, and you can be in this league.
Yeah, I met a lot of women basketball players in my banking years. You know, we did promotional stuff with them, and they're very physical. You know, and strong and built. You know, very physically because they're doing a physical job, and where that's very important to be that way. You know, to be very in great shape. So yeah, I mean, they will certainly like kick my ass, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, all of us, absolutely.
You know?
But if you were a guy who were trained in that, right?
Then, yeah, that's a whole different, it's a whole
you know,
different
like,
ball game. Yeah.
The part of the things that really turned me on some of that stuff, like I didn't really, for me, a lot of it was for a long time was just non-issue to me. You know, that's not going to be the thing that sways me one way or the other, right? And then, you know, it wasn't the swimmer, it was the volleyball player that you just see the spike down. And, you know, I get it. It's part of the sport. You know, people get spiked in the face. But it was just one of those things where I was like, wow, like I totally understand, you know, that whole thing now is like, yeah, if it was a girl who did it to me, you know, even a say biological girl who had, you know, spiked the ball down into my face, you know, oh, whatever, you know, part of the game, you know, whatever, but it's not, right? So then because it's not, you automatically have to kind of turn your brain to what you hear all the time is like, look, you know, biologically, evolutionarily, if that was a fucking word that I just made up, cool. But you know, like, you know, the hunter-gatherer sort of mentality kind of, you know, that you're going to fall into that slot, you know, every time.
Yeah.
You know what? And the reason why I brought that up is because I know that you were talking about the club back then. It was I forgot what club it was. You said it was right next to
Sugar or Minx?
Yeah, so Sugar or Minx, yeah. So, you know, back in the day, I used to go to a club. It was called Shelter, okay? And which was a great club. You know, I don't know if any of you guys remember that, or Medusa's or Shelter. You know,
None of those
down
ring
in
a bell.
Chicago. Okay, and it was house music.
Okay.
You know something I kind of grew up with. You know, it's a Chicago thing. It was
Right.
made in Chicago, and so I used to go to Medusa's and Shelter mostly. And there is, you know, it's a really diverse community, you know, and so I met trans women. You know, I met a lot of trans women, you know, and I became, you know, there was trans women I became friends with, you know,
Right.
and the whole thing, and you know, the reason why I brought, you know, and the thing I think we were talking about earlier with the sports is that I think we were saying, is that there's probably about maybe 10 or 15 of these trans women in sports, you know? And so with 15 people out of 350 million, I don't know, well, now they're all playing sports.
Right,
but,
but
let's say
however
100
many
million
thousands
however
of
many thousand
college
people are
athletes,
playing
let's say,
sports.
right?
Look at how much big of a deal this is. And look at what it's done. It's turned people to make these people like a real like threat to society, to the point where they're getting killed. And I mean, over maybe 6 or 7 cases in the United States, and it's in really high school and college. Okay, now you would think that that's not a crisis, but you would know that if you listen to different parts of the media, very famous people, Joe Rogan,
Right.
It almost seems like this is kind of a manufactured thing. And I mean,
It's definitely a fear mongering thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and there's and I think there's good people that are getting hurt by it. To
Yeah.
some
100%,
degree.
and they shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
100%.
Right. I'm big.
Yeah.
You remember what was his name? Pete Davis did a little thing. It might have been on SNL. It might have been a stand-up thing that he had done, where he was like, I don't get why would somebody go through everything that it takes to go through this to go into a girl's bathroom? You can just go in there. There's no bouncer. He made this joke and and with so many of those topics, I would 100%, I've never heard of a case of somebody pretending to be a woman so they can go into a girl's bathroom so they can watch girls pee, I guess, or whatever. It just feels like you got to check so many boxes for that to that weird kind of scenario to present itself.
And I completely agree. The only thing, the issue we've always talked about was the sports.
Yes.
Did you guys see, was it Brian, the White Mamba? Did you see that video he just did?
No.
Where he went to, play that guy who said his name was the Messiah in New York, who kept saying he was great at basketball, and he went there and played him. And he made that famous quote. And he's famous for being one of the worst people in the NBA. But he said, I am closer to LeBron than you will ever be to me. What he said to any normal person, college person, high school, I am closer to LeBron than you will ever be to me. And he will go and play any normal person and basically school him. And he's late 50s now?
Yeah.
And he will beat them and school him, and he's out of shape.
100%.
But he's showing the world, that vast difference. But now if you take that difference and take the NBA, the WNBA, I mean, there is a physical difference
There's a physical
there.
difference.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
So
there's a physical difference.
Right.
it's
'cause
kind of
you're
like the
both-
swimming, as you said. If you take
you're
the worst
both
swimmer,
trying to be at the absolute peak of your physical performance, right? So I mean, it's not like someone who maybe just wants has that that feeling and then just wants to lean into it, right? Okay, you're doing the whole I want to be a girl thing. I don't understand the I want to be a girl, but I want to be a girl who plays sports. It's like, okay, it's a little different.
So I went to, I don't know if you've ever been, here. I've been to the Philippines.
I'm going to try to do it right now.
Here we go.
In that area, I've gone to a few places. My wife and I have gone to a few places where we go scuba diving, and you can see, it's kind of like being in space. If you go scuba diving, you're just, you're floating around and you're seeing all this kind of exotic fish, and
Plant
life that you just never, you typically don't see. Yeah. So in the Philippines, you run into they have districts in in Manila, where there is sex work, and you'll see a lot of sex workers. There's a community, of
you
them.
might want to hold off. He's going to start taking notes.
So but
It's quite a trip for all of us, right?
you know what? If there's a documentary on Netflix, if you guys take a look at where it's organized and they take
For
care of the
purely
girls,
academic reasons, Mo.
But they have trans women over there in sex work that you can go see. It's kind of like Thailand.
Yeah, we had a guest, one of Joe's friends. I don't know if you know him, Juan.
Juan Finch Jr.?
I don't know if you guys had run into each other.
He's the guy who sued the state for all those license issues.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had him on a few months ago, whatever. We really liked him, but it was just a really bad setup because we tried like a Zoom type deal because he was down in Florida.
Right.
And my internet kept cutting out or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing he said that was the advice that was given to him was the prettier, the more likely it's a man, right? Or what was the exact?
The prettier the girl, the less likely she's a woman.
Oh my God! You know what?
That was like
yes, you're spot on. Okay, and here's why. Okay, is because you can get access because you start reaching your puberties when you start finding out if you like guys or girls or your whole thing when you're around the age of 13 and your body starts changing, and that's due to hormonal changes in your body. So over there, you can get access to that. You can be diagnosed and get access to the stuff that you need. Okay, in order to you to come out and have it's a puberty blocker is what it is. It's completely reversible. Okay, that's another thing. They're saying they're cutting off, but this is a reversible thing. It's a puberty blocker.
Yeah.
So it's a hormonal thing. It blocks it and it's reversible. Okay. So they give that to him. If you look at Dwayne Wade's daughter, okay, how she looks like, you wouldn't be able to notice the difference if she's a girl. I mean, if she was once, she was, born male.
Right.
So. Access to the meds is what that is. That's why you can't tell the difference, and it's better for them, they nobody would know the difference,
right? Mentally, and
it's like you said, you can't tell, safety wise, they're who they want to be, and so that
Is it easier to get it out there than it is over here? Is there like you don't know the answer to that? Like, I'm just saying, like if you hit puberty and you knew what direction it is you want to go to, right?
They give it to you. You can get it.
So it's right. So okay.
Yeah. But I don't know how we started talking about that. But
you just randomly came out of nowhere and said you just looked at me and you said, "Let's talk about trans women in sports."
Me, man?
And I look at Mike. I'm like, "What the hell did we just go to?"
Right.
The last thing I said was, "Why don't you tell them how we met?" And then you go, "Let's talk about trans women in sports."
Trans women.
You know what it was? We were talking about it, and I lost track of time, and we was off camera when we had the conversation. It was the setup that he had.
I know.
He set it up.
Right.
You set it up appropriately.
He did set it up appropriately.
Before we went into
you set this up appropriately. Yeah.
It was on camera, by the way.
Yeah.
This was just.
Oh, that was on camera.
It was on camera.
Yeah. So
it was just on camera behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So everybody knows
won't
it's
be
not
on
out of
the official
nowhere.
thing
It wasn't out of nowhere.
For me, it was out of nowhere because I'm sitting here like,
For Joe and Mo, it was.
Yeah, I was like,
what
what just happened? Like, where did this? I know we're ADHD, but this is beyond my ADHD.
The
Like,
audience too. The audience would be confused as fuck
I think
too.
Joe
Yes,
had
I
like
do
walked
have it,
out
and it's
the room
bad.
to the kitchen to freshen up his drink as I was coming in.
Because I bit my tongue thinking, like, where are we going? Is this about to be like some very politically crazy thing, or we're going to go to some big fight? And then there was like no issue. It was like everyone's like on the same
And that's
page.
a touchy stop. That's a touchy topic. We fucking killed it. You know what I mean?
Very
We
touchy
fucking
topic,
killed
and I
it.
thought that was going to go.
Yeah.
I thought you were coming in to come like bad at it. Like, okay, I'm not. This is not a hate mongering like show. We don't sit here and like just attack people. Like, we're about spreading truth and what's going on and fucking around.
I love you guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
love you
he-
guys.
he-
Yeah.
You hit it perfectly.
You know,
you
he
did.
picked
I love
up.
you guys.
He
Yeah.
picked up on the essence of the
Yeah.
show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like I walked in like, what just happened?
Right. He picked up on the essence of the show, and then he did.
I was
he
totally.
You let it.
Oh, you let it. I was totally cool with it.
Tried.
He did what the
He tried.
Right.
he did what the three of us do often is let's take the show in a direction, and he just dropped whatever he was talking about. I want to talk about trans sports. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the guy did say before we started that no topic was off limits to him. So here we go.
We're totally here for it.
Let's fix it. I think we did.
Maybe we should rethink that policy.
No, we're totally fine with it. It's just I didn't know where it was coming from. Like, I'm glad you gave me the setup because otherwise, if you didn't give me the setup, I'd be like,
That was bad. Yeah.
Who gave him that much weed? Like,
Right.
wait. Did
Mike,
you say you're
what
married
did
with
he-
kids?
what did
Like,
he take that
what
you
am I
didn't?
missing?
Right. What did he take that Mike didn't?
I'm starting to rethink that being the sober guy in the show.
Whatever he took, it was not the fast acting one. Right when it kicked in is right when you can put a mark right where the edible hit on you. There's the pause. I want to talk about transports. Here we go.
Let's go to the moon.
Yeah. And down that rabbit hole we went.
And we survived it, ladies and gentlemen. We survived it.
We did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't even have to fucking go past the Queen of Hearts
I
this
know.
time, Nobody got their head chopped off. This was good. That was
I love that. That was great.
Hey,
Okay, pop quiz, Mo. How did we solve transports?
how did we solve transports? We
Well,
did it.
the three of us. We just did.
I know, yeah, we did in the conversation, but it's not that solved.
That's what we said. That's the solution. But
Well, we got to
quit beating around. Quit beating around
We
the bush.
gotta put it in play to see it.
Put what in play?
The solution.
He wants to spend a lot of time in the
I said pop
Philippines to
quiz.
test it.
Yeah.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
You know what?
I'm high right now too.
Oh, I
I
know.
Smoke. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
it's pretty easy.
Mo did take a hit.
What you can do.
He's on the
if-
moon right now.
You can give. So, say if you're playing basketball, okay,
Yeah.
and the team, the school decides, the players, they have to vote and say, hey, you know what? Do we want this person who's going to have maybe a little bit of an edge? Okay, and if they decide to have them on the team, then they have them on the team. You know, if they have them on the team, then the other team should be able to decide if they want to play them. With the other person that's going to have a little bit of an edge.
Which is, I think that's kind of how it goes, right? I mean, the only downside is when the opposing team turns it down, they got they're forfeiting.
See,
right?
they should get the win.
Right.
They should get the win then. You
Right.
know what I mean? Because they voted. That's just which you voted
Right.
for it. I'll bet you that will solve it. Why the fuck? Why not? You know what I mean? Why would they? They had options.
Right.
And it's only 6 cases of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
It's like, and
Right,
then
they
it's
get
a high school sport.
They get blown into
It's
like hundreds of
wow.
cases in every city.
Yeah.
Every
yeah.
neighborhood. Nobody is safe from this. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't even. Aside from and like, look, one person is like 5 of those 6 cases. It's the swimmer, right? That's the one like we all kind of keep thinking of. I mean, the one
First thing that pops in the head of
right?
everyone.
And look,
Yep.
I'll tell you where I really probably started to turn on it was that South Park.
Oh, yeah. With
Oh,
Macho Man Randy
See that?
Savage.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
Heather
what
Swanson.
happened?
They had Macho Man Randy Savage, or somebody that looked like Macho Man Randy Savage, like cartoon wise, saying they identified as a woman named Heather Swanson. And going up against a woman who was actually like very good in, as a woman athlete, but she's going up against Macho Man Randy Savage, who's like, oh yeah, like the entire time. It's just like, when you just put that much like emphasis on it, I'm like, look, dude, I get it.
At the time with the South Park episode, weren't they actually comparing it to something that actually happened recently with like
Possibly.
Right, all the stuff.
There was like
Possibly.
an actual wrestler
Yeah.
who did exactly that.
But
Yeah.
then here's another downfall you got to remember. Look at the
Yeah.
boxing over the summer, right?
Yes.
So,
Whoa. You talking about from the Olympic thing?
yes. Can I finish where I was going
Pretty
with that?
sure that was proven to be 100% women. But keep going.
I was going to say, now if somebody has masculine features, they will attack them saying they're trans.
yeah.
That's where I was going.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't saying she was trans. I was saying now a female can't even have masculine features or not be considered ideal beauty
Right.
without being considered trans if she's good in
Right.
sports because of this issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very unfortunate.
That-
I mean,
she
yes.
did not
You're
deserve
not a
the
real
treatment.
man unless you know.
Right.
Sometimes
She did not deserve the
Women
treatment and
have
the hate
facial
she
hair.
got.
The women
Yeah.
the most feminine of women.
Yeah.
And that's
know.
what I was bringing up. Like, look at the hate and the like outpour of like hatred she got because they didn't think she was pretty enough to be a woman and she had to be a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what, too, is that if we can get, it should make us kind of rethink the way we look at media, honestly, because there was a lot of pressure, telling us that this is a really big deal. And it made us think a lot of people, millions of people think that it was kind of a big deal. What if they're doing that with other stuff? What if
Do it with everything.
They do it with everything.
On the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I
Look over
call
here.
it the great magic trick. Look
Yeah.
over here while I fuck you with this
Yes.
head.
Yeah.
But is that not what the point of
that's
media
what it
though?
is.
Yeah, and that's kind of some of the
Yeah,
things I
yeah.
taught. Like, so at the end of
Right.
last year,
Training day.
I got bored, and what I did was I pulled up. I posted on LinkedIn. It was like my end of the year thing.
Yeah.
where I pulled up every big news story of 2024, and I did a whole post. You can look at it like right around New Year's. I posted it and showed all the big news stories. And then I showed all the government things that happened around the same time that most people didn't realize happened that were buried. And you could
Yes.
see everything is timed with either
Yep.
a pop star thing or celebrity thing or something that happened, something else slid by under the radar.
Yeah.
The big one is Hunter with the aliens. Every time there was a big Hunter trial, there was also a sighting of aliens at some point.
A lot of different things. I wasn't going to say
we-
that one, but
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No, we did have some.
Hunter
we did
never
have some
got
alien
really swept
sightings,
under the rug.
I feel like
know?
he did a few times. Every time there was a big trial for it, there
Well,
was
it-
something else that they called out.
it was
bigger.
a lot of it was tied to actually drug and sex trafficking things that were caught up or
Right.
busted that were
Yeah.
tied to big
Yes.
things that put under.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what it goes back to is the whole Kennedy thing, where he had a mistress, in the in the media,
stable
like covered it up. I mean, but now we know it's a public,
Right.
thing. We know, and they've
It was
always
also
done
a different relationship, like,
different. Yeah,
and that was like, I mean, if I don't know how historically accurate it is, but there's a movie, 13 Days in October, and it's about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kevin Costner's in it.
Yes, that's a great movie.
I forget who plays Kennedy, but Costner basically plays just the special counsel or special assistant to the president or whatever, right? And he's a family friend, and he's like a good go-between between whatever. And when like one of the reporters finds something out, and he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna go public with this." He's like, "Look, man, don't, and I'll make sure you get like an exclusive on this other thing that kind of comes out."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Well, I can't do that." And he's like, "Look, man, assholes that don't play the game get cut out of the fucking loop." So like,
That's the Associated Press.
right, it's like one of those
Wow.
things. Like it used to be, a give and take sort of relationship where you knew, like, hey, if it's serious, we can sit on it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can give you guys time because, nobody wants to get fucking nuked.
Now
Because
if you-
that's basically what was
Now,
on
if you
the
don't
line
play the
at
game
that
with people in
point.
power, they don't even want you near them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you question anything and you're an enemy and you're fake or you're a fucking agent of the left or the right.
Yeah.
A lot of my like I get a lot of my news from both sides.
Yeah.
And I don't go too deep
Yeah.
to either end.
Yeah.
Unless something like pops up, and then I can usually tell by whoever the name of the source is that,
Yeah.
well, I've never heard of this source, so it must be one of those like,
Yeah.
kind of fringe ones.
And everybody should know, okay, that that both sides, aren't good, because
Right.
if they were, I mean, then there would be no poverty on both sides. Okay, we've had both people in power, and the poor people didn't really get anything.
They're a chip. They're a
Under
tool.
both of them.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I mean, I think that they're pushing a lot of stuff on us, like social things, to get us to kind of not worry about that, instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we have any money? Or why are we fucking in this situation? You know
Right.
what I mean? And why are you guys getting 180% of our pay? The pay, you know what I mean? That's the CEO pay. The ratio is,
Oh yeah, and it just blew. I mean, it
Yeah.
exploded with the Reaganomics. And,
Yes.
It was the whole trickle down thing. Which, look, I'll admit it sounds like it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
But you know what else makes sense on paper? Fucking communism makes sense on paper.
I love that
All
line.
right, when you look at it, it's like like I remember there was like some fucking exercise they did to you when we were in school, right? and they kind of do give you like these scenarios and stuff, but they don't tell you what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, if you were, if you wanted to be in Group A, congratulations, you just created a communist country, you created a socialist country, you created this kind of a, it was like, what? And it was like the same thing. They did one with, I think what they did to us at our high school was the abortion one. Do you remember? They gave you three scenarios.
I vaguely remember that one. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, would you recommend, or would you be okay if this woman, wanted an abortion or something? Right.
Yeah.
And pretty much the only one that, basically like if you were doing like a point system or whatever, based on history and everything in the scenario, the one that you probably would have not given the abortion to ends up being Hitler. Right. And the other two were like Beethoven and fucking Einstein or some shit. And it was like, oh my God. Like it was just one of those like, right.
Yeah. No,
but it was like, like one of them, I think like for Beethoven, it was like, so this woman, she's already got 12 children.
Yeah.
Right. And these many of them have died. And these many of them have like these kinds of afflictions.
Yeah.
And like, how it, and they don't tell you what time of, history it was coming from or anything like that. So it was one of those things that always kind of stuck out to me that like you could always twist something to make it work.
Yes.
Right. So my biggest fear, as far as, the United States, our country right now, I'm critical thinking, right? That's what and I do have, I have a kind of somewhat of a history in education. So like, coming out with all these like new, education policies and platforms. Like I had a fucking hard time learning how I was supposed to teach somebody's kid, and this was happening as I was in my master's program for it. It was basically like in the middle, they turned a 180 on how we did everything, and it was called the backwards lesson plan. And and it was like just saying it sounds counterintuitive, right? But when you think about it, it makes 100% sense, which is like, what do you want the kids to know when you're done learning, right? So it's basically like, what's the goal? Okay, now you just kind of work backwards to how do you get from the goal back to like, from learning the alphabet or learning, whatever. Okay, so learning the alphabet, it's just not just the kids are going to learn the alphabet. It's like, no, by the end of this lesson, the kids are going to be able to, recite the alphabet without, from memory or whatever.
Yes.
Right? But just the way it was delivered just made it that much more confusing and difficult to implement. Right? It took, I was in grad school for I think 3 years and I want to say it took a while. Like I would do these lesson plans and I still couldn't understand how I was doing it wrong.
Right? Everything was.
I'm like, I just want Johnny to know what he's fucking reading. Like can we do that? Yeah. And there was so much less, it seemed, emphasis being put on the critical thinking part of it, like you need to figure out this answer yourself. I can't be the one spoon feeding you answers.
Very often it felt like the student who tried to do any kind of critical thinking would be the one that would get in trouble for things. Like I've seen a couple of times when I was going to school where like the teacher had something wrong and a student tried to correct her about like, oh well, I thought this is what this was, and then ends up with a detention because of that. And
my mom was up to school for one of my older siblings for stuff like that all the time because he couldn't let it go.
Right.
One of my older brothers, he just, every time he saw the teacher mess up, he would like not even just like call it out, but made sure that it was like, like basically almost like recorded.
Right.
But we need more people like that because that's why the government's doing what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's why the bills, the legislation,
it's like
all
I
these rules are
spoon
going
feed
through.
you this information and you're going to swallow it as truth without, thinking anything differently.
But we don't let that happen here.
It's funny because
we try not to.
It's a bit of the irony of how America came to be with the whole land divided thing. You know, that was a very big part of it, which you were saying earlier about how they try to keep everybody divided. So they lead people in whichever way they want to lead.
Yes.
They show them this, they show them that, and they keep people split apart to fight amongst each other. But literally, what America or how America came to be was deciding to look past that, so they can work with each other and grow.
If you fight amongst each other, you don't fight against the top.
Yes, you don't fight against the top.
Right.
You know, if we figure that out, then, you know, I think it's, you know, we change it. You know, as we change it. You know.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of it is I don't really engage anymore with the wild craziness. I don't go, you know, like, oh my God, I can't believe you could, you know, how can you even think that, you know, it's like, you know, who was it? I saw somebody who said a quote, was it Keanu Reeves that you see his quote all over the place now, where he's like, 2 + 2 is 5. Cool. Yeah. Have fun with that. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to debate that you say 2 + 2 is 5. I know it's 4. The majority of the world knows it's 4, but I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to like waste my like personality, my
absolutely,
you know, whatever, just to debate you on something so trivial that I don't, you know.
And you know what? I have to work on that myself, you know, and that's something
helps.
that
Weed
does. Yes,
weed helps with that.
Yeah,
I'll say.
I bet you there'd be a lot of people who would prefer me on weed. Otherwise, I would be on LinkedIn all the time.
I think it would depend on the type.
You gotta get you the V.
Yeah, the V, the THCV.
Yep.
Yeah, this guy gets on V. You know, it's just like the movie True Blood.
You know what? And this stuff, you know, it really gives you a clarity of thought. You know, what's a shot of caffeine? You know what I mean? And it tastes great. You know?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm glad you like it. We all do. But I still want you to tell them how we met for the last. I know you and I were trying to talk before about what's going on with it.
Oh, did we
I think they're gonna love this.
Yes.
Did we buffalo dip that with the
We totally buffalo dipped it like a motherfucker.
the transient?
We went out more than a transient.
With the transient?
Yes. But I think they're gonna get a kick out of this.
You got it.
You got it. We all got it. We all got it.
Yeah. You know, that's a big one because how that article that you wrote, okay, you know, has been circulated, okay, and it did some damage, and there's a multi-million-dollar company, all right, that in the last bill they had some language that would have given them a lot of control over the entire industry because. Transportation, I'm not going to mention their name. Transportation, it's in the article, you know. They, you know, it kind of ties all the parts of the industry together, you know. So if there's a huge fundamental, you know, change there, you know, then you're going to have something ripples effect through everyone, you know. So so it's just like you said, you know, this one, you know, company was positioning themselves again to do this, and they tried to do it last session. The bill didn't go through, and they're trying to do it again this session. Okay, you know, I like the guy. Okay, I like the guy. Okay, and we just fundamentally agree. Okay, that disagree that on how the world works. And the reason why I say that is because there is, you know, he believes in his heart, okay, that your success should be rewarded regardless of the you know, of what's going to happen to, you know, the others that are trying to come up in the market. So if I got this far and I got this big thing, then I'm going to really, you know, then I deserve to have that, you know, and that's just that. you know, and but I don't agree. You know, I think that it should be a healthy market that's better for everyone, and it allows other small businesses to come up, you know, and like myself, like Moetta's, you know, and the members of the ITPCA, you know, in the transportation industry. So I don't think they're trying to do anything malicious. You know, I think it's just a, you know, belief. You know, it's just a little bit different. You know what I mean? Then it's just there's a lot of people that believe that you know, and I'm just right now I'm on the side of it where, you know, it's gonna it would like devastate my business, and I love my business. You know, I love being able to transport weed. It is a really cool job. I meet really, really cool people, and I get to do things like that panel. You know what I mean? In the that, you know, at the flower expo, and I get to work with this plant that's really been kind of a lifesaver, you know, and a health, mental, even, you know, all around saver for me. So I really love that, and I want to be able to continue to do it. You know, so I think you did great work with that article, okay? Because a lot of folks did not know that this was happening. You know, they because yes,
F'nAround had a hand in stopping a bill that could have hurt a lot of people.
You know, yes. The answer to that fundamentally is 100% yes. Okay, I experienced this after you know, people became after, you know, after I saw the article, and the article was shared with me, you know, and then I discussed it with others, and, you know, and shared it. I experienced, you know, what it did. So yeah. That's cool. And that's good stuff. I think, you know, I think it should give everybody pause. I think because that's healthy for the industry. Just, you know, in my opinion, you know, so yeah, I think that's great work, man.
And it was actually Mike that encouraged me to keep doing it. Like, I like analyzing stuff and going into it, and then making a joke of it, as you've seen. Like, not only like analyzing and breaking it down, but reading legislating is easy to understand, but not everybody gets it. Some people just grasp it. For me, it's easy to understand.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But then after I read and go through it, I could break it down, but then I have to break it down again and again. So what I realized, as I was told by Mike, as he started calling me, I'm a LinkedIn poet. I like to just write stuff. So he's like, just have some fun with it. So then I break it down to the most basic way and put it to analogies or metaphors that anyone can understand, and make it funny and satirical. Because
I think about, you guys remember the movie Road Trip?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? When they're, when the smart guy, or you know, the stoner guy, whatever you want to call him, is like smoking weed with the old man on the porch. Right, and he's like, oh, it always just kind of helped. And then he's like teaching the one dude on the drive back, like everything. And he's like, I could teach a monkey Japanese. It's just about finding the medium, you know? So he's like, you know, you're big into wrestling, right? And he's like, all right, so philosophy. And he was like, you know, Aristotle was like Vince McMahon and blah, 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 you know? Like, and that's how that's how he kind of did it. So like, you know, that's kind of the way I try to, like, I think about stuff a lot of the times, and why I initially went into education was because of, like, people would say you have a great way of breaking things down to getting your audience, to whoever your audience is, to kind of understand it better. You know, like, I totally would have been, you know, one of those teachers. What's the movie where they change the education system to where it's like, we made it so that it's more about like their actual life, right? And then they go into the thing, and it's like, so Fat Tony has like, you know, this many kilos, and, you know, I forget, it might have been like the Ali G movie or something like that, where they, like, you know, they spoof the education system that way. But yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things where, like, you know, Joe likes to kind of say this stuff, and then, you know, I try to make it a little easier to kind of understand, because, I mean, he talks like, you know, with such that high level, you know, you know,
I agree.
His SAT scores were way higher than mine, you know, because he's a good test taker, probably. I don't know. We know all the same words. I just don't like to use the big ones. You know? I know what he means when he talks.
But it's like a nice way to help people understand it. And so I just do stuff that pop out to me, the things that grab my attention, or when I see elected official have a pattern, then I just kind of keep going after the elected officials' bills because, once a pattern emerges, it's always going to happen.
Yes.
Or when people reach out and ask. So if someone wants something broken down, no matter what state or country, we'll go through it. If it's a different country or state I haven't been aware of, just give me a couple days or a week and I'll learn their laws and legislation and then I'll break it down. I just got to give me a couple days to catch up on all their legislation and laws.
Man, I'm not going to break those ones down.
I will. And then I'll be like, hey,
I'm not learning.
and then I got to go, is this understandable by a normal person?
I don't want to become a paralegal in another country.
But I don't want to. It's not like I'm doing it. It's just I enjoy doing it. It's fun to do.
And that's why we have him do that on the LinkedIn poetry. Because it's
Everybody give Joe a follow on LinkedIn. Yeah, on all you guys' socials.
And if you have bills or something you want us to go through, reach out and let me know. Because a lot of times what you're seeing is a shell bill be pushed through, like the Fox article that just came out.
Yep.
You saw I posted earlier today. It's a shell bill that they're trying to slide through, and what they're going to do is when they do the edits, they're going to put something in the background that you don't know about. That's going to hurt people.
Yeah.
So, actually, speaking of which, do you have any updates for anything that we were talking about?
You want me to get into that, or you want to keep going?
Or so, I don't know. What do you think? You want to hear some updates?
I don't know. I think we're getting kind of long, but if you've got an update since the last show that you're willing to share, he hasn't told me, so this would be.
So the only update that's going on is you guys would probably get a kick out of this. Yeah. We did all that whole episode on the fraudulent conveyance and the fraudulent valuation and everything they're doing for the fraud buyout. They've officially asked the judge. They tried to ask the judge for an extension in time so they can do a counterclaim against me after the point where you can do a counterclaim to get permission to countersue to prove and validate that the demand buyout for $100 buyout for multiple marijuana licenses was valid. So something that is federally and state illegal, they're trying to ask a judge to prove is legal. Something that I federally filed publicly about and publicly posted the federal filings for fraudulent conveyance and fraudulent valuation, they're trying to sue me to say is legal.
Does this go back to the ARD? Can I finish the acronym C?
No, it's outside of that one. We know I filed against them too. But I thought it was funny. So you know how much licenses cost. It's
oh my god,
2 properties for 2 grows and 2 processing with 17 licenses between.
Yeah,
they did a fraudulent buyout for it, demand buyout while I'm suing them for those assets, saying it's only worth $300 and here's your $100 share, and did a demand buyout for $100, saying these assets are only worth $300. Here's $100. You're done. During the middle of a court case. In any state, is that legal?
I can tell you, it sounds fucking terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Which is basically what I said.
Yep.
I'm not a legal person. I don't, but I understand common sense.
Yeah.
And the common sense of that makes no sense.
And we don't even say their name anymore. We just call them Cannabitch.
We got a song about it.
We actually wrote a song about it. It went viral and it has over 13 million hits.
Yeah.
13 million.
Fuck New Era Cannabitch is the name of the song.
13 million hits.
That's the name of the song.
Yeah.
That's the name of the song.
Fuck NEWERA Cannabitch.
But Spotify will help you with spelling if you have a problem.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, how does the pay work on that? I never knew how that worked.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
You're not getting $1.
No, it doesn't work anything. You get fractions and fractions of a penny.
Yeah. It's like.
But Germany loves us.
Yeah.
And we do really well with overseas streamings. We have over 100 countries that listen to our music now.
That's badass, man.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of how the name of the show started, because the band's called the Fuckarounds.
Uh-huh.
So you're effing around with the Fuckarounds.
Yep.
Now, what do you guys play, or what instruments do you guys play? Do you guys play instruments, or is it electronic?
It's all
EDM.
a secret.
It is more easy.
Secret recipe.
I think,
dude, I have to check out that.
I might be the only one who actually knows how to play an instrument. Even me, I don't know how to play that well.
No comments.
But yeah, it was fun. We played around with it. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, but that's a funny update. I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah, no, that was nice.
It's kind of
It's good to keep us updated every now and again.
right once in a while. It's kind of fun.
I think that's a good place to.
Yeah. Do you have any closing comments or stuff you want to talk about transportation or where you want it to go?
Yes.
Because we did sidetrack there for a while, as he called it, our train.
Well, it was.
Yes. We need a comprehensive cannabis bill that's going to address hemp and also all the issues that all the licensees have with the CRTA. The transportation license is needs a lot of work, and there is something in the current bill that's going to help everyone. We don't have a bill number yet, okay, but the industry is working together. All of us are working together for the first time, and I think that that this is occurring because the cannabis industry kind of faces an existential threat, which is kind of these hemp shops that are out there, these hemp shops that are selling synthetic cannabinoids and so forth. So it really brought everyone together and unified them, and I think that was something that was long overdue, and so we're all working on a comprehensive bill that we can get over the line. It's been 3 years since we had good legislation, any legislation, in cannabis, so it's long overdue. We're looking to work with the hemp guys, okay? We're looking to work with LaShawn Ford, okay, who's always been a champion, in the cannabis industry.
He was the legislator that met me for lunch after I tweeted him.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, all right.
Yeah, he's always been
Great
like
guy.
that. Yeah, I've talked to him. I've called him up. He'll give you your cell phone number, and just a real person. He's working on this. So I'm confident we're going to have something come over the line finally this session.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Send it over before you send it out. Let me rip it apart.
I 100% will. 100%. Yeah.
Over here effing around, we'll happily F around with it. We'll rip it apart for you a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll find those little loopholes they're not showing you.
Oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. 100%.
Just go
I will
line
send
by line
to you.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
for sure.
He's like, I just love doing that.
Well,
I mean, I've been attacking
I get the outline, and then I'll go through the outline.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been attacking the homeschool bills hard. I mean, the homeschool
Yeah.
one. That one's been bothering me. There's like over 40,000 opposed to it, 1,000 in favor of it, yet it's still flying through.
What is the deal with that?
It doesn't make sense. Something about it does not make sense. Like, for that much opposition, with people out there like protesting, going nuts, with that little people for it, everyone's approving it, and it's tracking and tracing homeschool kids and forcing them to register through the Chicago public school system
what the fuck?
to like turn in the reports to make sure everything's approved for their immunizations. It's kind of registering the children. So I keep making a joke about it, like a massive joke, because Illinois lost to Aunt Martha's last year. That got shut down, where had all the issues with abuse and missing kids. And then now Holman's coming in trying to save all the missing migrants, and now all of a sudden Illinois is trying to track and trace homeschool kids.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
it sounds like the Donner Party.
Yeah, that 40,000 against, is in the
That's
1,004,
huge. Yeah.
and it's still going through.
That's a lot of red flags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I think a
Definitely
topic
sticks
for,
out.
a
Yeah.
future discussion.
Oh, I
for sure.
completely agree.
Yeah.
And with that,
And with that. And with that.
thank you
Always
for
in
coming on,
space.
Ted.
Oh, I love you
It
guys,
was a
man.
pleasure.
I love you
Anyone you
guys.
want to shout out this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to give a shout out to Tiffany Ingram. She's the executive director of CBAI. Great person. Honestly, it's an organization that is got a lot of bad press, but she's changing that and working with the little guys, and she's brilliant, fantastic. Give a shout out to her, and also Edie Moore and Scott Redmond, and I'm gonna say Moetta's Transport.
Cool.
Give us a call.
All
Yeah.
right.
So give him a
Thank you.
call. Thanks for effing around with us. And big shout out to Little Joe's,
Yeah.
the Shott Beverage.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us at F'nAround at the Clover Club. There's been a Timeless Wealth production sponsored by Little Joe's and Shott Beverage. Thank you,
brother.
Ted, for joining us.
Got his name right.
I did. Ted and Moetta for
Nope.
joining us.
Whoa.
Hey, what do you mean? No, I got it.
All right.
Mike,
And my mic.
Yes, sir.
And I'm Joe.
Mo, thank you for finding out.
Thank you.
Sounds good. They're supposed to be lower.